It's Monday. It's nice to have you. I'm Ashleigh. This is Banfield. It works. Hey, I hope you had a really great weekend and a nice Mother's Day. And it is time to just get back to work because it was really busy for us. It turns out it was a very busy weekend, especially in the story of that pastor's wife, Micah Miller. Again, I keep saying this story would have no legs. This poor woman took her own life, according to authorities. And there had been all sorts of speculation prior to that maybe she was killed, but it is not that story. She took her own life, but the story that's emerging since, it's just one major revelation after another. And tonight, text messages that will break your heart. Text messages that her estranged husband was sending late night to her sister about getting her out of the house in as quick a method possible. Garbage bags on the lawn and all. It was really mean. And then an about face the next morning. I'm going to read those text messages for you. 911 calls that were made because she, according to her family, was in hiding from the estranged husband. I'm going to put the whole story together for you again with all the developments over the weekend and then this really super creepy eulogy. A eulogy where the estranged husband said he went to the morgue like 4 times and tried to raise her from the dead. All that coming. Okay, and then in Oregon. So you hear about wildfires a lot, and I don't know if you know this, but sometimes inmates are used to do jobs like that, like fight wildfires. And in Oregon, that happened. And an inmate, dangerous inmate, went out and fought the wildfires, did good. And so he got out early. And now they think he may be a serial killer in that time that he was out. All that is coming. And I think what's most important for us tonight is where is he now? That I will tell you in a moment. But did he take his second shot and put it up in smoke? All that next. But then I love this actor. I've always been fascinated by him. He's like Clint Eastwood, but kind of quirkier and tougher. See Buscemi. You see him in Boardwalk Empire and Sopranos and Fargo. He's just super tough. He always plays like this really nasty guy. But on the streets of New York City, he's like you and me. And he can fall victim to a very evil criminal, like a thug, just like you and me. And that's what happened. This poor guy, walking down the streets of New York City, met the same fate as Bethany Frankel and a whole bunch of other people in New York City these days. They're just getting slugged out of the blue, cold-cocked, like out of nowhere by strangers. What is going on? Is this a thing? Did I miss something on social media? Please tag me or email me or, do what you do, Internet. We're going to tell you that story tonight. I am still trying to get to the bottom of it. I do have a very smart reporter on who's going to get me straight on this one. But let's start here. I want to begin tonight with multiple new layers of drama and threats and allegations, all surrounding the tragic death of Micah Miller. The story tonight is not so much about her actual death, but instead it's about the final years of her clearly unhappy life and some very toxic and threatening communications from her estranged husband that are just now being unearthed. And I'm going to read them for you in just a moment. But first, there is some very curious news tonight on the law enforcement front. The Robeson County Sheriff's Department says that it has been in contact with the U.S. Attorney's Office and the FBI. And the sheriff says they've been in contact with those two agencies since the early stages of this investigation. And the sheriff says tonight that the sheriff has requested the assistance of both of those agencies, the U.S. Attorney and the FBI, for a suicide. But here's a very weird little twist. When we, NewsNation, reached out to Micah's family for comment, they told us that the FBI informed them that the Bureau was not involved in the investigations. What? Someone got some explaining to do. Now, look, police have already ruled that the wife of the South Carolina pastor died by suicide with a gun that she had purchased herself just hours before her death. But since that tragic event, the details of her relationship with that estranged husband, John Paul Miller, those have been oozing out of the woodwork, and they paint a very dark picture. Micah's family says the relationship was, in a word, toxic. And though there's plenty of evidence to support that, John Paul continues to say, at least in public, that Micah was the love of his life. In fact, here is this odd eulogy that he gave at the Solid Rock Ministries Church. He actually gave it on May 5th, but for some reason it only just posted online on Saturday. I want you to take a look.
I've been speaking for many years, and for the first time, I don't really know exactly, how to open or how to close or any of that. I'm just, everyone knew how beautiful she was on the outside, but only, I think, a spouse knows how beautiful that person is on the inside. So I want to take a few minutes to just kind of tell some stories and just share some things about Micah that I don't know, shock you or help you get to know the more intimate side of her. As Christians, of course, we know she's not here and in heaven, and she's, worshiping and enjoying, and probably hadn't even had time to look down here yet. But I got this lay next to her body and spent time with her body about 4 times this week, and each time it still didn't hit me. I thought she was going to wake up, I even tried to raise her from the dead one time this week. And that morning, actually, I went to the mall later. She had bought me this dog tag, and the chain broke, so I went to the mall to get it fixed. And I saw a female about 20, 30 feet in front of me, and she was wearing one of Micah's dresses, and she had the same tattoo Micah has on her arm and the exact same hair. And out of just instinct, I screamed, "Micah!" And the girl turned around, and it was one of her sisters. And I thought I raised her from the dead. She's alive, But I can't wait to see her again one day.
Days before that, the church filed a police report saying that they had received harassing messages about Micah's death. Around the same time, Pastor John Paul was put on hiatus. Last week, John Paul's attorney released a statement denying any involvement in Micah's death, directly or indirectly. We played a little bit of it for you last week. I'm going to give you a little bit more right now. This is what he says. Our client refutes any reports that suggest he ever abused his wife. Recent reports claim that Pastor Miller groomed his wife from the age of 10 years old. Couldn't be farther from the truth. She moved to Myrtle Beach at the age of 15, was married to another man at 18, and divorced at the age of 21. It has come to light that Micah Miller struggled with mental illness, specifically bipolar disorder, which, when not properly managed, led to paranoid episodes and self-destructive behavior. On March 22nd, about a month before Micah's suicide, she posted a video on Facebook about abuse. Now, she doesn't specifically say that she had been a victim, but it sure does sound like it. Take a listen.
You are the bride of Christ. And my Bible says that he took all the abuse you could think of for you so that you didn't have to live that life of slavery and bondage and pain. Jesus took it all for you. So you don't have to stay in a abusive relationship, whether that's sexual, whether that's somebody forcing you to take illegal drugs, or alcohol abuse, or physical abuse, psychological abuse, making you think that this is all your fault, or you're a bad mom, or you're a bad wife, or you're a bad husband, or you're not giving it your all when you know you are.
We know from Micah's family and from police reports that John Paul was stalking and harassing Micah in the weeks leading up to her death. And today, NewsNation producer Rich McHugh got a copy of a 911 call from Micah's sister after she says she received a threatening text from John Paul last November. Micah was staying with her sister at the time, and here is some of that 911 call.
911, what's the address of your emergency?
I need to report a non-emergency at this point.
Okay, what's going on?
My sister came here today to visit because her and her husband were having issues. She came from Myrtle. She told him she'll be home on Tuesday. And he is texting me at this point saying, I'll be at your house at 12:55. I'm armed and ready, and I will keep you up all night. I'm going to get her back. And I said, you're not welcome at my house. There are no trespassing signs up. You cannot threaten weapons. He has 6 guns that he just purchased recently. And he's saying, I'm armed and ready. I'm coming to get her.
We also have 2 of the texts that John Paul sent Micah's sister that day. The first one, in the wee hours, it was sent at 1:11 a.m. And it says, John Paul has loaded, John Paul says he's loaded Micah's possessions into garbage bags and is threatening to either dump them on the sister's property or take them to the Goodwill. The second text, 7 hours later, at 8:04 a.m., takes a very, very different tone. Take a look at that. He says, if she comes home today, tell her I'm sorry, so sorry. I'll do whatever it takes. I'm sorry to you and Matt. Should be known that we have repeatedly invited John Paul and his attorney to appear on this show every day that we've done the story, and they have always refused. They did give us that statement. We've now read it twice. And I want to bring in NewsNation producer Allison Weiner, who's been digging into this story since the very beginning. Allison, you know, the statement yet again pointed out that the allegation that Micah suffered from mental health issues, that she was hospitalized from February 8th until February 10th. Everybody's been wondering, like, why that hospitalization, how it came about. And you were able to dig up that answer today. What is it?
Well, I got an affidavit from Micah's father, Michael, who was actually on the show the other night. And in the affidavit, he talks about the fact that John Paul was going around saying that Micah was not taking her medication and that she needed to be hospitalized. And when Micah's dad looked into it, he found out that she was really deciding to take just 1 pill instead of 2 pills, which is something that she was very much allowed to do. So he found at that moment and throughout a lot of their interactions that, according to him, John Paul was exaggerating a lot of things and making up things so that he could, in fact, get Micah hospitalized against her will.
So how did she end up being admitted against her will?
Well, he actually had a document. It was John Paul who admitted her, who signed the paperwork. But he showed Micah a document, and this is according to Micah's dad, but there was a document that he had shown also to Micah's father that showed that the power of attorney would be still in Micah's dad's name and also in her brother Nate's name, so that if somebody had to get her out of there, they both had the power of attorney, as well as her husband. That document was never notarized or filed, but it's something that Micah saw.
Was it a real document? Did her family actually agree with these things?
No, it was never filed. It wasn't signed by them. It wasn't notarized. So it's not a legal document, but it looked like a legal document. And basically, initially, according to Michael, to Micah's father, he was told that there was, in fact, that his son was signing the document. So it just was sort of a tangled web of lies, according to alleged by Micah's father.
Micah's father, Michael. Yeah. Okay. So the bad blood between, John Paul and Micah's family, just, bits and pieces just keep coming out. And it is so nasty. We heard the 911 call where Micah's sister talks about no trespassing signs. And then John Paul apparently did the same thing to Micah's family. What did you find out about that?
Well, I heard in the affidavit, Michael writes about how John Paul repeatedly threatened before Micah was committed to the hospital that he was going to make sure that Micah's dad and her family never saw her again, that he was going to keep her away from them. And every time he would do this, every time they had any kind of an exchange, and that's in the affidavit that was filed by Michael. And apparently he went through with it. He also sent him an email. And we have a copy of that email in which he said, you better not be trespassing on my land, any of the places that were owned by John Paul or the church.
Didn't they? Yeah, they got barred from the church, right? Micah's family?
Yes.
John Paul had them barred from the church.
He just made sure that he made good on his promise. And in light of all the other allegations that are being made in terms of the dispute between, Micah and John Paul, it's disturbing to see some isolation going on there. I mean, making sure that her family didn't see her, disrupting a visit with her sister. It just starts to be very troubling. And then I will remind you that
I'll tell you what, we couldn't actually put some of the text of John Paul's text to Micah's sister. It was filled with profanity and threats, and it was really, really mean at 1 o'clock in the morning. The next one, 6 hours later, was "I love you and I hope she comes back." So that says something. Thank you for that. I so appreciate it. Allison Weiner, you've been doing such incredible work. Appreciate it. Keep you coming. Keep telling us what you find out out there. In the meantime, thank you. I want to bring in Rodney Demery. He is a retired Louisiana homicide detective, and he's the host of Murder Chose Me on Investigation Discovery. It's good to have you back on the program, Rodney. So I wanted to ask you a couple of things about this. There's such an incredible pattern that's been emerging since Micah's death. The sheriff has said Micah took her own life and gave quite a case to prove that. But so many other allegations have come out that John Paul allegedly groomed Micah from a very young age, maybe 14. She said something about 10. Her family thinks it meant 2010, and that she alleges she was abused during marriage. And we're seeing all sorts of evidence that is uncomfortable from John Paul. Could the family make a case about his abuse leading to her suicide?
Hey, thanks for having me back. Well, the short answer is yes. The question would be whether or not to be a prosecutable case. In most cases, we have the right to confront our accusers. If she's not there, then obviously there's going to be an issue there. Now, if there was a prior investigation, maybe some sort of memorialized statement that she may have made, then they can pick up from where they left off. I think the next thing would be whether or not that state actually has any laws that kind of support some sort of assisted suicide or causation. It's difficult to say, but my guess would probably be not. So I think all those things can be true. He probably did all the things that he's accused of.
Yeah, so he admitted to a lot of things, maybe knowingly or unknowingly, but they're in emails and they are in communications. He admitted to putting a tracker on her car. He admitted to slashing her tires with spikes. He admitted to threatening her via text. There's video of him confronting her at a gas station, and she's asking him to please, leave her alone. It just seems like there could be a case for stalking and harassment. Do you have to have a victim who's alive in order to make a criminal case like that?
Yeah, that would actually be the question, and my guess is yes. Obviously, if someone's accused of a crime, whether they may have committed it or not, there's going to have to be some sort of benefit of the doubt, innocent until proven guilty. So I think the evidence is going to have to be produced that he did, in fact, do it. Even though we have one side of the story, we don't know what her side of the story would be. So it's kind of complicated. Obviously, we like to have a witness, but it would be interesting to see if this could actually happen.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, we've done a lot of wrongful death cases where the victim is not able to speak. And a lot of times I talk about OJ all the time. That's one of the wrongful death cases that was like a no-brainer. But this isn't a wrongful death in terms of murder, but this could be something sort of intriguing. Rodney Demery, want to have you back. Will you do it again? Thank you so much for this.
Absolutely. Anytime. Thank you.
Great. We will do that again, and for sure. So coming up, investigators in Oregon. They know exactly where to find the only person of interest in at least 4 murders. Because tonight, he is locked up tight in a prison, and that is great news. But there is also bad news, because he is due to get out in just under a month. The clock is ticking, and Brian Enton is on the story next. Between February and May of last year, 3 months, 5 women turned up dead around Portland, Oregon. And though at first the police said that the deaths did not seem to be connected, they later changed their minds. By July, news reports identified a so-called person of interest in at least 4 of these women's deaths. His name is Jesse Lee Calhoun. This is him. He is currently an inmate. He's locked up in Oregon in a prison there. And as we speak, he's there on an unrelated conviction. But here's the problem. Mr. Calhoun is due to get out on June 7th. That is less than a month from now. And that raises the obvious question. Could a suspected serial killer really be about to set free? I mean, could it happen? Could they set him free because maybe they don't have the case? He's a person of interest, right? Not a suspect. Not yet. I'm joined now by NewsNation's senior national correspondent, Brian Enton. He's live in Portland tonight. You went all the way to Portland to dig on this story. I appreciate this. So take me through the details of this case. I remember when we started reporting on it, and, you know, everything was tamped down. No, nothing to see here. It's not a serial killer. That is clearly not the case now.
Yeah, that's what was so interesting about this, Ashleigh. When we first started reporting on the case a year ago, did not really make a lot of sense. You had 5 women all killed in a very short time frame, all found in similar situations. And police were very quick to say, no, we don't think that they're connected. Nobody should be scared here. Well, guess what? They changed the story and said that they could be connected. And time went by, the investigation continued. People in this town have been afraid, Ashleigh, that there is someone on the loose. There's been no arrests. The family's been very, very upset. The families of all of these women that you see on your screen. Well, now, finally, we are learning through sources that there is some very legitimate movement, finally, in the cases.
We're very thankful to have each other and fight together. We call each other the fighting families.
These families share a bond that they never hoped to have. Their loved ones all mysteriously murdered in and around Portland, Oregon. The cases unsolved. When you got together, how quickly did you realize, wait a minute, there could be a connection?
Putting our girls, as we call, they're our girls. They're all our girls. Putting their faces together, saying, hey, something is up. And either we have a serial killer or we have 5 homicidal maniacs. I don't know which one would be worse.
5 Oregon women dead, all within a 3-month period, including Kristen Smith, found in a field February 19th, 2023. Joanna Speaks, discovered April 8th. Charity Perry, found dead near a state park on April 24th. Bridget Webster's body, discovered April 30th. And Ashleigh Rial, found May 7th in a rural area. Police in Portland initially said the deaths were not connected, trying to calm fears about a serial killer. But then that theory changed. This man, Jesse Calhoun, was named a person of interest. The convicted felon was initially behind bars for burglary, car theft, and assaulting an officer. In 2020, Calhoun and other prisoners battled the Oregon wildfires. And in a controversial move, former Governor Kate Brown commuted their sentences for their help firefighting and because of COVID. Calhoun was freed, and after he was out, the murders happened. Police haven't said why they consider Calhoun a person of interest in at least 4 of the killings. He's still not been charged, but local reports indicate movement on the case behind the scenes. There's obviously a lot that you all can't say, but are we at a moment where people can look at this case and feel like justice is coming?
I think we all feel we're there. We're at the end of this finish line. It's going to happen.
So once it came out, Ashleigh, that Calhoun was a person of interest, his... Oh, sorry, what were you saying, Ashleigh?
Brian, are the victims' families confident that something's going to happen at this point? Like, I get very scared when I hear there's a person of interest, not a full-on suspect, and the guy is literally weeks from walking the street.
I mean, yes, and they've been through a lot. I mean, because they feel that this case was not taken seriously in the beginning. You know, many of these women were, involved in drugs, were homeless, which, by the way, is not uncommon in Portland. I mean, come to Portland right now. It's pretty shocking when you walk around what you see right here in terms of drug use and homelessness. It's common, and regular good people fall into that lifestyle here. And Jesse Calhoun may have taken advantage of that. That's something that may come out. But, it has been frustrating. The families have banded together and actually been able to do some investigative work on their own, which may have actually aided the case. Listen to what Joanna Speaks' sister told me.
I don't think that the detectives not getting the information that they needed earlier on in the investigation was due to their inability to do their job. I think it was because you're dealing with a specific demographic in our area that lives up to a lot of its stereotypes, and those people aren't going to talk to somebody with a badge because it's never done them any good.
Yeah.
So we don't have badges. And, we were able to
get a lot of good information.
Sisters, Ashleigh, over the last year have come together and they have gone out together to these areas, to parts of the city, to get information on their own where people are more comfortable talking to them than the police. And they've been able to go to the police with a lot.
Is there anything quietly going on, like behind the scenes?
Yes, there is. They don't know a lot about it. They don't want to talk about it. Look, everybody is afraid of compromising the investigation right now because everybody related to the victims and even in this town has been waiting for some kind of resolution to this. So we keep hearing, be patient, but we do have sources who have confirmed to us that there is something going on behind the scenes, and the clock is ticking. I mean, the clock is ticking. You mentioned it. Jesse Calhoun is going to walk out of prison a free man in less than a month. So there is something happening behind the scenes, and we're just going to have to wait and see when all of this goes down.
Brian Enton, excellent work as usual. Looking forward to the update. Thank you for that.
Thanks.
All right, so coming up next, he is an A-list actor. He's known for playing like super tough guys in movies and TV. And most people would not mess with this guy, but someone decided to. And Steve Buscemi fell victim to New York City's punching problem. Buscemi appeared badly bruised after being cold-cocked on the streets of Manhattan. Exactly what happened? And we got a picture of the suspect that police are looking for after the break. Compared to a lot of the horrible things that we report on this show, simple assault doesn't really seem all that scary. But what's happening in New York City, and other cities too, but mainly New York City, it's not really simple, and it's actually pretty terrifying. There's dozens of times in the past few months that people have been punched in the face or socked in the head by random attackers on the sidewalks of Manhattan. We know about it because a few of these victims have had the presence of mind to go on social media afterward and tell people about it.
You guys, I was literally just walking and a man came up and punched me in the face. Oh my God, it hurts so bad.
I literally just got punched by some man on the sidewalk.
So I just got punched in the face walking home.
Now, police have made a couple of arrests, but even with cameras literally everywhere, it is not an easy crime to investigate. And literally anybody can be a victim. Even a TV tough guy has now been targeted, actor Steve Buscemi. He was taken to a hospital last Wednesday after somebody slugged him in Midtown. Maybe the attacker didn't know who he was messing with because Buscemi made his name playing dangerous thugs in shows like Sopranos and Fargo, Boardwalk Empire. Here is a sample.
In less than 2 hours, liquor will be declared illegal by decree of the distinguished gentlemen of our nation's Congress.
Stroll in. I'm over here busting my you crazy. Whoa, you laundry all day. Scam artist. Yeah.
You're crowding me. You don't make fun of me. Got it?
Got it.
I went and got the money. I got shot picking it up. I've been there for 36 hours. I'm taking a call. That's mine.
I am not seeking forgiveness.
Yeah, I wouldn't touch him. Look, Steve Buscemi wasn't badly hurt, but this is what he looked like yesterday in Soho. If you close up on this picture, you can actually see a shiner peeking out from his sunglasses on his left side, and his face definitely looks a little bit swollen. Now, here's a picture of the man who is believed to have hit Steve Buscemi. Police are trying to identify him, and track him down. If you have any information, please call Crime Stoppers. They can definitely get that to New York. Coincidentally, we assume the same thing happened to another actor from Boardwalk Empire a month ago, Michael Stuhlbarg. He was attacked by a rock. A stranger took a rock and hit him. I'm happy to say that suspect has been arrested and charged with assault. But before that, it was Real Housewives star Bethany Frankel. She says she was also socked in the face, completely unprovoked, outside a bakery on the Upper West Side. The Upper West Side. For his part, Buscemi says that he is, quote, okay, but incredibly sad for everyone this has happened to while walking the streets of New York City, end quote. I want to bring in Hadley Hall-Mears in here. She covers entertainment and U.S. culture for Vanity Fair and The Hollywood Reporter. Here I was thinking I was going to get you to talk about, what's this trend? Is it a trend? As it turns out, Hadley, this actually happened to you.
It did happen to me a couple years ago in Oakland. I was on assignment and I was standing at an intersection waiting for the light, and a young woman who seemed to be unhoused and mentally unwell took offense to me moving away from her and walked in front of me with a dead expression and punched me in the face. And it was incredibly traumatic and sadly something the Oakland EMTs, who are wonderful, who came to my aid, said happens all too often.
So the big question in New York is that it's happening to famous people and not famous people. And I'm just wondering, did I miss something? Is there something on TikTok? There was a long time ago. What is going on? Is this a crime trend, or is this just bizarre coincidence?
I think what it really is that we have such a lack of mental health facilities in this country, places for unhoused folks to go, places for folks to get drug addiction treatment. And you're seeing just this kind of rage coming out in people, and they don't know where to express it. And, it's terrible that it's happening to these celebrities, but also I hope that it means that authorities and folks in these helping fields will start to really see this as a problem, and we've got to take care of these people and give them the care they need.
I mean, listen, we did cover this story before it was famous people. I mean, there were all these young women who were posting on TikTok that they'd been hit. And then came Bethany and all the others that we just listed out. Tell me about your personal experience since. How did we just report on it? And I think people forget that crime has an effect on its victims. It changes how you are. How has it changed you?
It really did change me. For my work, I go all places alone all the time. I've always been very adventurous. And ever since this happened, I keep an eye out. I always have my keys between my hands in case I think somebody's coming out. If anybody comes near me that I feel a little unsafe about, I, visibly flinch. And I used to be quite oblivious to my surroundings, honestly. I was so interested in what was going on or what was in my head. And I'd been very lucky to have never had any kind of violence done upon me in my entire life. I was very privileged in that way. And when it first happened, I was terrified, I was angry. And then I just felt this overwhelming sadness for this girl who had been so angry and out of options that she punched me. It really just made me sad for the state of folks in America. And like Steve Buscemi said, sad for all the other victims of these just totally senseless random crimes. That's really what's so scary about it, is it's so senseless, and the brain can't really process that like they can maybe if it's tragically someone or something planned.
I would think we just have a simple right to peace, Listen, Hadley Hall-Mears, thank you for coming on. I'm sorry that happened to you, and I'm wishing you all sorts of recovery, because it does take a while if it ever really gets back to normal. But thank you for talking about it. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Ashleigh.
All right, coming up next, a serial killer looks back on his days on the road and what he did on the prowl. In his latest letter to me from prison, the happy face killer reveals some insights as to what he thinks about women. And he has some, I guess you could say, a choice name for me, description. I'm going to read you the part of the letter I found the most intriguing right after this.
running back, I know a thing or two about aches and discomfort. Magna Life Arnica Pain Relief Gel is packed with natural ingredients that target the root cause of discomfort instead of covering it up.
What do you do when you have got no future to speak of? If you're an egomaniacal serial killer, and by the way, that's most serial killers, you relive and you fantasize about the past, particularly the horrible things you did to other people. And that is exactly what the happy face killer is doing in his latest letter to me. His real name is Keith Jesperson, and his latest note from prison dwells on a gruesome murder that he carried out in 1995. I'm going to read some of it to you, so, be careful here. As I sit here in prison, I think back to when Julie Winningham and I met in early March of 1995. How it played out? What would be different if I were able to go back in time but still had to kill her? Knowing what I know now, I would have convinced her to come with me in a ruse of switching my empty trailer for a loaded one at the Scale House on Highway 14 near Interstate 52. He was a trucker. Made love to her until it was dark. Kill her and tie her body to drag on the pavement back west as far as it took to cancel her. If I could go back in time and have to kill her, doing it that way would stop police from identifying her or reading a name on a car, bill of sale, linking to me, and I'd still be out there somewhere. Or would I? So I can't stop thinking about the phrase cancel her. Tie her body to drag on the pavement back west as far as it took to cancel her. A person, a woman, an actual human being being shredded to be canceled. And as if that's not demeaning enough, Jesperson then just glosses right over another case referring to the victim as simply number, just a number. He says this, I settled number 7 on April 4th to murder 2, to do life alongside Oregon's time. 29 years to settle my cases. Number 7. I don't know who it is, but he's just talking about a woman he murdered. Just as I settled number 7. As for whether he still has the urge to kill, the happy face killer says this. I got into an argument with a man in here that's a convicted murderer like me. We were in the secluded shower area where we planned to meet to fight. So I asked, you want to see who is the better killer, or do we put this behind us and move on? We both have agreed not to speak to each other. We know what we're in here for and feel it's best not to follow the path. If we were allowed to go free, both of us would choose never to kill again. And then he brings me into his stream of consciousness in a characteristically creepy way, saying this, quote, you seem to think I could be mad or offended by you asking questions. Why would I be? You're a reporter and a woman, making you a busybody, doing what a woman reporter does. I'd expect nothing less. I'm comfortable with why I'm here. I put myself here. Yes, you did. Keith Jesperson, you did. You're serving multiple life sentences for the 8 murders that you've been convicted of, even though that you have claimed to have killed upwards of 185. Which now brings me to another busybody woman. I want to bring in Dr. Catherine Ramsland. She's a forensic professor of psychology. She's an author of several books, including The Mind of a Murderer. She's also very smart. You're just the busybody I want to speak with. Talk to me a little bit, Doctor, about that term, a busybody woman, a woman reporter, and then the terms that he uses, to shred a woman's body on a highway by tying her underneath his truck and dragging her, canceling her, or murder number 7. Walk me through the psychology there.
Well, referring to women reporters as busybodies is demeaning. It sort of puts you in your place, that he knows who you are and he knows what to do. And, that's very matter of fact. When he talked about what he wanted to do to his final victim, Julie Willingham, he already had done that before. That was one way to erase a woman's identity, is he had tied her to the bottom of the truck and dragged her along the pavement until she was shredded. And so he's thinking there that had he done that with Julie, he would have erased her identity. Police would not have been able to link him to her, and he would still be free.
But the whole notion, to be called canceled or to be called number 7, is there any point in a killer's time in prison where the contemplation actually catches up with you and you start to realize what you've done? Do you experience this with people like Keith Jesperson, that they start to get, I don't know, a conscience?
I don't experience them getting a conscience. I experience them using whatever they did to manipulate people, to be important, to find ways for people to keep talking to them. He knows that he's important in that respect, that there are a lot of people who want to hear from him and want him to talk about his murders. So he keeps that up because it's a way to not be bored in prison. It's a way to be significant. He did put out sort of a feeler to see if maybe he could be a consultant for you, as he had been on an earlier show, Dark Minds. And he wants to have people believe that, he's just like everybody else. He took a different path, but it minimizes what he did. And I don't see any evidence of conscience there.
I have a quick question. I would like it to be a long one, but I'm out of time. I only have 10 seconds. Can people like this be fixed?
Fixed? I don't think so. No.
There's just no hope. I'm going to ask you back. I always do. I'm fascinated. I just wish I could, I wish I could speak to you at length, every program, because it's just, I find it just so perplexing to see people like this with just no shred of humanity. Catherine Ramsland, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
And make sure that you join us here tomorrow, because Brian Koberger has a key hearing in Idaho. It is closed to the public, but it's key to his murder trial. We're going to let you know what we find out. We're staying on the question still unanswered in the death of Micah Miller as well, death of the pastor's wife, right? And Brian Enton is going to poke around a little more in Portland into that possible serial killer out there in the Pacific Northwest. But stay tuned. I'm back in just a moment. Hey, before we go, I promised you I would keep an eye on Drake's house. Not really, but I did. Over the weekend, more action. There have now been 2 intruders at his house and a drive-by shooter. So let's bring down the dis level, right? That's at least what he's saying. Just wanted to let you know. Hey, don't go anywhere. Cuomo's coming up next.
Hello, I'm Chris Cuomo, and tonight we are going to get after it. It is time to take on the Trump payoff case. I can provide you insight that I don't believe any other media person can. At least they haven't to this point. And I am surprised from the reporting, because there are no cameras in the courtroom, which I think is a complete injustice to you. If your public officials are on trial, past or present, you should be able to watch. Put that to the side. From what we're reading,